So what we want to do now is provide some data for our view. And what we're going to do is store our data inside local state inside our app component. And then this state we'll use to provide the data for our view when we view it in the browser. And to do this, as I mentioned, each React class component can use component states. And to do this, we can declare a state object inside the class, and we can say state equals and open some curly brackets. And then for now, we're just going to stick with our simple little values. And our values is going to be an array that we store inside our state object. And what we'll also do is use a component.mount method, React lifecycle method, which is called immediately after the component is mounted. And when we set state here, we trigger a re-render of our component, and then our updated state is displayed on our page, and we'll be able to see this in action. So let's use the component.mount. And what we're going to do is inside here is we're going to use a React component class method called this.setState so that we can modify what's going on inside the state here. And what we're going to do is we'll say list.setState, and we'll set our values inside here, and we'll set the values into a new array that we're creating. And for now, we'll just stick with static data. So I'm just going to create a couple of values, one with an ID of 1 and a name of value 101. And I'm going to create another value object, this one with an ID of 2 and a name of value 102. Now we'll very shortly go and get this data from our API, but just to keep things as straightforward and simple as possible, what we're doing here is when our component first loads, the state is going to be an empty array inside this values property. And after our component mounts, we're then going to set the states inside here, and we're going to set our values to an array of two different objects, and it's these two objects that we'll output onto our screen. So what we'll do is we'll just modify what's going on inside our JSX here, and we'll take out everything apart from the image and the header at the moment. And what we'll put inside here is just an unordered list. And what we want to do is loop over the values that are stored inside our state and display them on our page. And to do this, we can open some curly brackets, and anything inside here is just pure JavaScript. So what I can do is get access to our state by saying list.state, and we have to use this because we're referencing a class property. So we need to use the list keyword in this particular occasion, and we'll say list.state.values, and then in order to loop over the values in an array, we can use the map function, and we can use a callback function on here in each element of the array. So what we want to do is inside this particular method is specify the item we want to run this function against, and in this case it's going to be value. And then what we can do is open some parentheses, and inside here we can add our list items, and our list item is just going to contain the value.name that we're getting back from our value here. Now because we're using TypeScript, we're going to get an error saying that the property name does not exist on type never. Now we're not going to worry about using TypeScript to provide type safety for our values, so all I'm going to do is just give this value a type of any, which is equivalent to using pure JavaScript and not using TypeScript. Whenever we use the any as a type, we're effectively saying don't bother giving us any type safety here, we're just ignoring TypeScript at this point. And in fact, this particular component that we have right now is coded exactly the same as it would be as if we were just using JavaScript instead of TypeScript, and the only difference is we've had to use this any type on our value here. Otherwise, this is just the same as writing this code in JavaScript. Now what we should find is that when we take a look at our browser, we should see the two values output on our page, and if we go and take a look, then sure enough we do. We see our two values there. Obviously we've got these values coming from our API, so what we want to do next is take a look at how we can fetch these values back from our API and display them on our page, and we'll take a look at that next.